This scatter plot maps 30 years of Alzheimer's clinical trials. As the data shows, they cluster near a 99% failure rate. This staggering attrition rate exposes a structural error in our approach. We have been treating Alzheimer's disease as a single entity, rather than a sequential, multi-stage pathology. Attempting to clear amyloid plaques in the cortex of a 70-year-old patient does nothing to resolve the mitochondrial damage that initiated the disease cascade decades prior. Effective treatment requires temporal pharmacology, deploying specific interventions at the exact biological moment their target mechanisms are active. To solve Alzheimer's, we have to move our pharmacological focus backward in time to the actual cellular origin point of the disease. This timeline illustrates the spectrum of collapse, a framework that divides the disease into 3 biologically distinct phases, from age 20 to 75. Phase 1 operates entirely preclinically, unfolding silently across early to mid-adulthood. There are no amyloid plaques or tau tangles here. This period is defined by a cellular, bioenergetic, and quality control crisis. By mapping the precise molecular cascade of Phase 1, we can construct a phase-matched pharmacological defense using existing compounds. Preventing late-stage dementia requires stabilizing the brainstem of a 30-year-old. It cannot be done by attempting to repair the cortex of a 70-year-old. We are looking at a projection neuron in the locus ceruleus. These unmyelinated cells maintain massive axonal arbors that span virtually the entire cortex. They fire tonically without rest, relying constantly on monoamine oxidase B to metabolize their neurotransmitters. This continuous metabolism generates a toxic byproduct. Every enzymatic reaction produces hydrogen peroxide within the cell. We can reduce this upstream oxidative burden using MAO-B inhibitors like selegiline and rasagiline, capping the internal production of hydrogen peroxide. Joseph Knoll first synthesized selegiline at Semmelweis University in the 1960s, giving us decades of clinical data on its safety and tolerability. Hydrogen peroxide, however, interacts with the iron that naturally accumulates in the locus coeruleus with age. Through Fenton chemistry, labile iron acts as a catalyst, converting hydrogen peroxide into destructive hydroxyl radicals. Administering an iron chelator like deferriprone strips away this catalytic iron, physically halting the Fenton reaction. Inhibiting MAO-B and chelating iron establishes an initial barrier, but reducing source oxidation cannot fully protect the neuron's DNA from damage over a 30-year span. Hydroxyl radicals strike the mitochondrial genome, creating 8 oxoguanine lesions directly on the DNA. The cell deploys PARP1, a repair enzyme that binds to these damaged sites. But PARP1 demands massive fuel. It synthesizes repair chains by consuming the essential NAD+ pool, rapidly draining reserves. We can halt this drain with PARP inhibitors like olaparib or veliparib. Veliparib is specifically suited for this. Its low PARP trapping activity and high central nervous system penetration allow it to stop NAD consumption without disabling the enzyme's physiological repair function. Once the drain is plugged, the cellular pool must be refilled using salvage pathway precursors like nicotinamide riboside and NMN. Charles Brenner's discovery of the nicotinamide riboside kinase pathway at the University of Iowa established exactly how these precursors operate. They bypass the metabolic bottleneck created by PARP1 hyperactivation, directly resupplying the intracellular NAD+ pool. Stabilizing the NAD+ pool resolves the bioenergetic crisis. This is the absolute prerequisite for the cell to run its own internal quality control systems. When NAD+ levels drop, NAD-dependent enzymes called sirtuins lose their power. This stalls the cell's entire mitochondrial quality control network. Without sirtuin activity, mitophagy, the mechanism that selectively recognizes and clears damaged mitochondria, shuts down. The dead mitochondria accumulate inside the neuron. They leak more reactive oxygen species, creating more DNA damage, which activates more PARP1. We can artificially force the clearance of these dead organelles using mTOR inhibitors like rapamycin, paired with direct mitophagy inducers like urolithin A. Rapamycin, originally isolated from a soil sample on Easter Island, forces clearance by releasing the biological brakes on cellular autophagy. This chronic mitochondrial stress triggers one final obstacle, the integrated stress response. When activated, this pathway paralyzes global protein synthesis across the entire neuron. To counter this, a molecule called ISRIB, discovered by Peter Walter's lab at UCSF, restores translational capacity, allowing the cell to synthesize proteins under severe stress. Forcing mitophagy and maintaining protein translation ensures a stressed locus coeruleus neuron survives the decades-long window of Phase 1. This complete network map outlines the Phase 1 therapeutic landscape. It divides our pharmacological defense into 3 layers. Layer 1 is oxidative source reduction. MAOB inhibitors, iron chelators, and free radical scavengers like edaravone suppress the initial damage. Layer 2 is bioenergetic preservation. PARP inhibitors and NAD+ precursors protect the cell's fuel supply. Layer 3 is quality control. Rapamycin, urolithin A, and ISRIB force the continuous recycling of damaged organelles. This systems biology approach provides a rigorous, mechanistic rationale for combining oncological agents, immunosuppressants, and nutraceuticals into a single protocol. But this protocol is bound by time. It is strictly preventative. It is biomechanically useless for treating late-stage Alzheimer's dementia. Testing a PARP inhibitor in a 70-year-old patient fails because the active NAD depletion cascade ended decades earlier. Cancer became manageable only when oncology replaced monolithic chemotherapy with stage-specific combination regimens. Alzheimer's disease requires this transition towards stage-specific combination therapy. We must deploy agents that align with the patient's current phase of biological collapse. The molecular raw materials for this protocol already exist. The spectrum of collapse framework defines specific biological windows where these existing compounds are most effective.